let's talk about collector cars in general, right? So you advise your clients on maybe what they should buy, what they shouldn't buy, probably try to keep the emotions out of it. It's a persistent question in terms of not only the financial benefits or financial futures of collector cars, but just like kind of what should I buy? What are good buys? What is a good investment? Which that's a question I hate, right? Cars fundamentally are not good investments. At least that's my position. You deal with often the very upper echelon of these types of cars where they do tend to be maybe investments. What is your take on that? How do you advise people on that in terms of buy, sell, hold? What's your philosophy? Do your clients listen to you on that? Do you just
let's back up for a moment, okay? I hate the buy, hold, sell question. That's I am with you in that vehicles are not investments, right? If you want to make a lot of money, cars is not the way to do it for the most part. There are some people that have done, exceedingly well in our industry, but, don't make no mistake about it. If we were having a discussion with a client's family office or a client's investment advisor, there are a number of investments that have done much, much better than cars. And so, the way that we approach things is different. Regardless of what you want to do. You said buy, sell, hold. So if somebody comes and says, hey, that 3.8 GT3 that's up on the wall, I want to buy one of those. We'll start our discussion. I said, why would you want to buy a Pagani Huayra, which I've asked a client, I would start with, why do you want to buy that, Porsche 3.8 GT3? I would ask the question. So learning about who the client is, what cars mean to him or her. And then, once we're knee deep in better understanding their mentality, where they're coming from, what does their automotive footprint look like, then we can get into actually dissecting that specific, many times, GT3 that they've pointed out that they want to purchase. And so, you can have a fantastic car that I would say you and I would both fall in love with, but it's the wrong car for the right person or the right car for the wrong person, maybe, right? So you can't just, I don't play automotive matchmaker. That's not what we do. And so we represent clients on a fiduciary basis, and we try to better understand, is this truly a good car for you, Mr. or Mrs. Client? And so that's the way that we approach, cars as, again, I don't put it as an investment because I listened to one.
But you're trying to protect their money, right?
I'm trying to protect their best interests.
Okay.
And so their best interest is not always financially based. Sometimes it is. But sometimes their best interest can be, if you put them in the wrong car and all of a sudden, Porsches are dead to me. Well, I mean, I've had it happen with a client who dislikes Ferraris, right? Maybe we got him or her in the wrong Ferrari. And so we are looking at things through a different lens, though. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. How much pushback do you have to do with your clients, or have you trained them well in terms of this is a good investment, this is a bad investment, in using that language?
So when if a client were to come and call a car an investment, I do invite their family office or financial advisor, their person into the room to have this discussion, which they always decline. Cars are not an investment. You can't look, we are an automotive fiduciary company. That's the way that we have positioned ourselves. We're structured identical to a law firm, but there are two things that we do not advise on. We do not give legal advice, and we do not give investment advice. By the nature of some of the cars that we advise on, yes, they go up in value. Some have done better than others. But if a client comes and says, we think that this is a great investment. Look, I want a client to buy a car because they love the car, not just, and that can, why does somebody love a car? They can love a car for how it looks. They can love a car for how it drives. They can love a car because when they were growing up, their father bought one and they remember, rolling around in the back seat, unbuckled, whatever that, whatever lens you're viewing a certain car through. That's what we try to better understand.
See, and I think you roundabout identified what is my biggest frustration with a lot of, I'll say, car people and or potential clients. I won't say clients because all my clients are the best. It's the potential ones that suck. Is when I say, why do you want to buy it? The unspoken answer, but the real heart of the answer is one of two things, if not these two things are pieces and part of each other. One, because it won't cost me much money or it will go up in value. Two, because it's the thing that is cool that everybody else wants. Oh, I heard this is good. So they're buying the status, they're following the herd mentality, and that kind of goes hand in hand with also it will go up in value. Because if you buy something that nobody else wants, then it's going to cost you money to own. If you're the only person who loves a 1998 Carmine Red Corvette, then it's going to cost you to own it because nobody else cares. But you also won't get the satisfaction of other people caring. The status, the Instagram likes, whatever it might be, the trophy at Monterey. At every level, there's some sort of reward for having something cool that other people appreciate. And there's a financial reward for that too.
Two things jump out. Number one, you and I look at cars similarly in that certain cars we know are not, they're not a collectible car, right? They may be going up in value, but, if you talk to, I'm going to say David Gooding, even though I've never had this discussion with him. If you talk to somebody that is at that level, they will make a pretty strong argument that there are only 10,000 collectible cars, period.
Okay.
That's it.
And that number is not growing.
That number is not growing. That is their argument. This is the old guard of the industry that, and they've got a well-based argument is what I'll say. I've listened to it. I don't agree with 100% of it, but, we talked about this the other day. If you look at how many 911s were made in 1967, right? By the nature of it, you can't say, or I think we talked about F40s or Gullwings or
right.
73, 2.7
911S
something like that,
yeah.
So you
yeah, there's 1,300 Carrera GTs, give or take. There's 1,300 Ferrari F40s, give or take.
And about that number of Gullwings as well.
Right. So we're already at nearly 5,000.
Nearly 5,000. So a Ford GT can't possibly be one of the...
There's 4,400.
Exactly, yeah. Right?
So there we are. We're at 10,000.
We're already north of the level. And so I think that if we go back to the, the 67 911, example, I don't know how many 67 911 T's were made. I don't know how many 67 911S's were made. I do know how many 67 911Rs were made. There's only 20. And so I think that if you were discussing it with...
And what did you say? 40 of that?
Out of the 20 that were made, there's at least 40 in existence today. Correct. Yeah.
That's my favorite Dave Bentson line.
Well, we'll get into collector car fraud later on, I suppose. But so those 20 67 911Rs are certainly included in that 10,000 figure. However many 67 911S's exist, that's not included in the number. Go back to F40s, Gullwings, and 73 RSs. Look, I've never driven a 73 RS that I didn't love. Never. I think that they are fantastic cars. I love driving them. I was rear-ended in one once, actually, but that'll be for the next episode as well.
Yikes. So I would make a counter argument, maybe, that as the number of wealthy people grow that are seeking alternative assets, I would say that it's not a hard and fast 10,000, right? So let's say that the 10,000 number was coined when there was 10 million millionaires. So there's one collector car for every 1,000 millionaires. Did I do that right? 1,000, 10,000, 10 million. Yeah, so a million is 1,000,000. So there's probably 20 million millionaires. And that's just the US. So look at globally, whatever. But, the number is probably, similar ratio because the global wealth is growing as well. So let's say there's 15,000 collector cars. But either way, it's a very, very small number relative to how many are viewed as collector cars just because they're quote unquote rare or special.
And now you're also getting into the demographics of who these millionaires are. You're right. The number of millionaires is growing. So the number of dollars chasing a finite amount of cars is increasing, which is driving up the value again of that beautiful GT3 hanging on the wall. Those cars have done exceedingly well in the last 5 years. If you look at the last 5 years of, for instance, D-Type sales, the Jaguar D-Type, those have been falling. Does that mean that a GT3 is, more collectible than a D-Type? I mean, obviously not.
No, yeah.
I mean, a D-Type is...
It's just a better, quote-unquote, investment right now.
A better investment right now. Right, yeah. No, and there's things that you can do with a GT3 that you wouldn't do with a D-Type. You wouldn't take a D-Type out for a grocery run. You would with a GT3. And so I think that,
Try me.
So, yeah, I you touched on this, but there is a growing number of dollars that are chasing a finite number of cars. Not all of them are collectible. Some of them are more fun to drive than others. Some of them are more mechanically reliable. Some of them are better to look at than others. And so all of these things, when we discuss the attributes of value, factor into the overall dollar amount of what it's worth today. But I think that it's a much more interesting question if you take a step back and say, okay, of the 120-ish D-types that were made, it might have been 80. I don't know. I don't memorize the numbers off the top of my head, but let's just call it 100 D-types. Of the 20 67 911Rs, look at those historical valuation graphs as opposed to a modern GT3. Those are very different looking graphs. And so to circle back to a question you asked me long ago, I don't groom my clients. I don't get paid any more or less if they listen to what I have to say.
It's a wonderful place to be.
It's a good place to be. It's well, but it also it keeps our advice objective. This is why we did it in the first place. Is I never wanted the transaction to be tied to the advice that we're giving them, right? Because I want to be objective in the advice that we're giving clients, and so that's why it was structured this way. Whether or not they listen to me, the biggest challenge for me over the past 12 years at this company has been not having my feelings hurt when people don't take the advice that I'm giving them. They're paying good money for it. They should listen to me, darn it. They don't always.
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, I'm a sellout. So if somebody pays me for my advice, I could give a crap what they do with it. It's when they want free advice and then they don't listen. But, it really goes back to the mentality. It's things are worth what you pay for them. So if somebody's asking me for free advice, that's how they value it. So I've just stopped giving free advice, except on the podcast. If you submit a question through switchcast.live, we will answer your question on the podcast. And we love doing it through this format. But please don't call my office and ask me what I think of such and such car and want me to spend a half an hour advising you. I will be happy to do so if you put in your credit card number first.
You can just give them my phone number and we'll do a discovery and we'll do it the proper way.
I just tell them I charge per hour and you hear this silence for about 3 seconds and they go, "What?
Yeah.
Really?" I'm like, yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And it just, they just, okay, I just want to ask you a couple questions. Yes, exactly. If you would like my consulting, it's hourly. If you want to ask me about a car we have or something in the course of my business, it's free because there's a carrot at the end of it for me. But if you want to just, yammer on about some car you found online and you want Doug's take on it, well, there's a cost to that.
I don't have anything for sale. I have no other business model than this. There's
You
no
work
other
for sale,
There
Dave.
are
You
no
work for sale.
other revenue lines in
Yeah. Well, I
in our
have to
model.
have side
So-
business to keep myself busy. I'm ADD. So it's like I get called up by an attorney and, hey, we need you to consult on this case. I'm like, yes. All right. Distraction. So
Have you done that before?
I have. Yeah. I'm in the middle of doing that
professional
right
witness.
now. It has not gone to trial yet, but it probably will. Okay. But I flew down to Florida and it was fun. It was fun. I really hope it goes to trial. Really do. Because the other expert witness is a complete dolt, and I poked a lot of holes in their argument. So, anyway.
I'm going to guess you can't talk about any of this.
Not specifically, no.